In the 90s, speed ruled, and safety didn't matter. Manufacturers pushed limits, regulators pushed back. Some bikes were so fast, they got banned. In this video, we count down the 20 fastest motorcycles of the decade. Buckle up. Number 20, Kawasaki Ninja ZX1100. Imagine a beast that ruled speed records in the 90s with a whisper until it unleashed ear-splitting power. That's the Kawasaki Ninja ZX11. Its sleek fairings and understated attitude concealed a rocket-ready heart, making even seasoned riders pause and grin. Just hearing that name whispers legend, and you can almost feel the throttle tugging at your soul. This bike demanded respect and dared you to chase it. That rush of adrenaline? Purely emotional gasoline at its finest. Under the hood roars a 1,052 cubic centimeter, liquid-cooled inline-4 engine pumping out 147 horsepower at 10,500 RPM and 81 pound-feet of torque at 8,500 RPM. Ram air intake kept speeds climbing into the high 170s mph. It accelerated from 0 to 60 miles per hour in a blistering 2.7 seconds and hit a top speed near 177 miles per hour. Despite raw speed, it stayed rider-friendly with a smooth counterbalancer and reliable carburetors. Lightweight cast frame, adjustable suspension, and dual 320mm front discs gave control that matched its fury. Back in 1990, new models sold for around $8,000, and today, well-kept examples go for under $6,000. Think of it as paying pocket change for a time machine that rockets you back to an era when top speed ruled. If that's pure nostalgia on wheels, brace yourself. Our next bike will make even the Ninja look tame. Number 19, Suzuki GSX1300R Hayabusa. The Suzuki GSX1300R Hayabusa wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a rocket with mirrors. Introduced at the tail end of the 1990s, it redefined what fast meant in the sport bike world and left competitors gasping for air. With its otherworldly design and stretched silhouette, the Hayabusa looked like it was built in a wind tunnel by mad scientists on a deadline. Riders didn't just buy it, they worshipped it. One twist of the throttle and you'd feel your soul trying to outrun your body. It wasn't about reaching your destination. It was about outrunning everything behind you, including fear. The heart of the beast was a 1,299 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine that delivered relentless torque and top-end madness. Riders were treated to buttery smooth power delivery, aerodynamic design, and a digital speedometer that felt more like a countdown to liftoff. It didn't need gimmicks. Its brutal efficiency and raw horsepower made it the king of speed junkies and long-haul maniacs alike. The Hayabusa wasn't just fast, it was a flex from Suzuki saying, "We're not here to play nice." Few machines gave you that rush where every ride felt like breaking the sound barrier. For some, it was a passport to adrenaline paradise. Back in 1999, the Hayabusa launched at around $10,500, an absurd bargain for a machine that could leave Ferraris in the dust. Buying one was like strapping a jet engine to your dreams and hoping for the best. And if you thought that was fast, wait until you see what Yamaha had brewing. It's a speed demon with a cult following of its own. Number 18, Honda CBR1100XX Super Blackbird. In the late 1990s, the Honda CBR1100XX Super Blackbird wasn't just a motorcycle. It was Honda's missile aimed straight at Kawasaki's speed crown. This bike wasn't built for showboating or gimmicks. It was pure, refined power in motion, wrapped in understated elegance. With its sleek aerodynamic profile and whisper-quiet menace, the Blackbird flew under the radar while leaving challengers in its dust. It was less "look at me" and more "try to catch me." For riders chasing the thrill of domination without the drama, this bike wasn't just fast, it was legendary. Some machines scream speed, but the Blackbird whispered it with deadly confidence. Underneath that glossy fairing sat a 1,137 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine, delivering silky smooth acceleration that could melt time itself. The Super Blackbird topped out around 178 miles per hour, making it the world's fastest production bike. until Suzuki brought the Hayabusa Storm. Back in its prime, the CBR1100XX cost around $11,000, a bargain for something that could outrun jets on a budget. Riding one was like taming a well-dressed dragon, terrifyingly fast but smoother than velvet dipped in nitroglycerin. Ready for something even crazier? Wait until you see the speed freak that dethroned the Blackbird. It's the motorcycle equivalent of a mic drop. Number 17. Kawasaki Tomcat ZX10. The Kawasaki Tomcat ZX10 wasn't just fast, it was fierce. This was the kind of bike that made your palms sweat just looking at it, with sharp lines and a road-hungry stance that screamed aggression. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, if you wanted to show up at the track and instantly command respect, the Tomcat was your ride. It had an intimidating presence, like a jet fighter idling on the runway, daring you to twist the throttle. And once you did, it didn't just accelerate, it launched. One ride could turn fear into fascination. At its core was a liquid-cooled 997 cubic centimeter inline four-cylinder engine pushing out an electrifying 135 horsepower. Combined with a 6-speed transmission and a top end tuned for long straights, this beast could eclipse 165 miles per hour without breaking a sweat. The Tomcat wasn't just a speed machine. It was a heart-pounding experience on two wheels. With a launch price around $6,500, the ZX10 was a ridiculous bargain, like finding a cheetah at a garage sale. It gave ordinary riders access to superbike thrills at sport touring prices. And while most bikes tried to blend in, this one strutted like it owned the asphalt. But if you think this wild feline was fast, wait until you meet the silent predator that dethroned it just a few years later. Number 16. Suzuki GSXR1100. The Suzuki GSXR1100 didn't just roll off the line, it charged into the 1990s like a caffeinated pit bull in a porcelain shop. It was aggressive, wild, and unapologetically overbuilt, earning a reputation not just as a speed demon, but as a brute that demanded your full attention. You didn't ride the GSXR1100 casually. You clung to it, fought it, and respected the chaos it brought with every twist of the throttle. For every rider who dared tame it, this bike offered something more than adrenaline. It offered legend status. This wasn't just another superbike, it was a rebellion wrapped in fiberglass. Powering the beast was a 1,125 cubic centimeter air and oil-cooled inline-four engine, producing around 155 horsepower. It was heavy by today's standards, but back then the torque was earth-moving and the straight-line speed absurd. Back in the day, this powerhouse sold for about $8,000, which felt like a steal for the kind of ferocity you were buying. It was like paying for a wolf and getting a whole damn pack. The GSXR1100 wasn't refined, but that was never the point. It was speed with scars, muscle without manners. And if you think that's wild, wait until you see the next 1990s monster that came with both a turbo and a warning label. Number 15. Yamaha YZFR1. The Yamaha YZFR1 didn't just arrive, it exploded onto the scene like a thunderclap in the late 1990s. This wasn't just another superbike, it was the moment Yamaha flipped the entire leader-class rulebook. It had a design so aggressive and a silhouette so sharp, it looked like it could slice through time itself. Riders didn't just want the R1, they needed it, craved it, like a shot of adrenaline wrapped in aluminum and steel. For speed junkies and performance purists alike, it wasn't a motorcycle, it was a revolution on two wheels. Some bikes chase legacy, but the R1 was born with it. At its heart was a 998 cubic centimeter inline-four engine, cranking out a blistering 150 horsepower and delivering torque like a punch to the chest. The short wheelbase and rigid chassis gave it razor-sharp handling that felt telepathic. Add in Yamaha's XUP valve tech and a 6-speed close-ratio gearbox, and suddenly you had a superbike that didn't just hit the corners, it devoured them. At full throttle, it was like tapping into lightning. Back in the day, the YZFR1 launched for around $11,000, a small price to pay for a machine that made you feel like a track god on public roads. Riding it felt like trying to tame a wild cheetah with rocket boosters strapped to its legs. And just when you thought the 1990s couldn't get any faster, wait until you see what Suzuki unleashed next. Number 14, Kawasaki Ninja ZX9R. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX9R came screaming into the 90s like a rebellious middle child, less polite than its older ZX11 sibling and way more reckless than the bikes it tried to outrun. It didn't just show up to the superbike party, it kicked the door down in full leathers. With a silhouette that whispered speed and a name that hinted at danger, this Ninja became the choice for riders who weren't afraid to flirt with the edge. Every glance at it promised adrenaline, but every twist of the throttle delivered a thrill that could curl your spine. For those who rode it, the ZX9R wasn't a machine, it was a challenge accepted. Underneath that aggressive fairing roared an inline four-cylinder engine pumping out raw fury, offering 899 cubic centimeters of unapologetic speed. It punched out over 125 horsepower and launched the bike past 170 miles per hour, backed by an aluminum frame and dual-disc brakes that barely kept it in check. This thing was built to smoke rivals, lean into turns with precision, and leave your heartbeat somewhere back on the freeway. Back in the day, you could scoop one up for under $10,000, which made it a steal for anyone willing to tame the beast. Riding it felt like trying to hang on to a lightning bolt during a thunderstorm. Stupid, thrilling, and unforgettable. But hold on to your helmet, because the next machine isn't just fast. It was banned from some markets for being too wild to trust. Number 12, Honda RC45. The Honda RC45 wasn't just a motorcycle, it was Honda's love letter to racing dominance, wrapped in carbon fiber and adrenaline. Built for the track but sold for the street, it carried the kind of mystique that only a true homologation special could. Every detail, from its aggressive silhouette to its road-hugging posture, screamed purpose. This wasn't the kind of bike you casually strolled past. It was the one that made you stop, stare, and wonder what it would feel like to tame something built for glory. For those who rode it, the RC45 wasn't just a machine, it was an obsession. Underneath its sleek exterior, the RC45 housed a 749 cubic centimeter V4 engine with gear-driven cams, unleashing a symphony of mechanical precision and blistering power. It featured a fuel injection system ahead of its time and a race-tuned chassis that made corners feel like art. It wasn't just fast, it was focused. Riding it was a reminder that perfection often comes in limited numbers. With a jaw-dropping price tag of over $27,000 in the mid-1990s, it cost as much as a car. But it was no ordinary bike. Buying one was like adopting a purebred cheetah, exotic, high-maintenance, and thrillingly unpredictable. Next up, we shift from track legend to straight-line lunatic with a missile on wheels that shattered records and egos alike. Number 11, Ducati 916. The Ducati 916 wasn't just a motorcycle. It was an Italian love letter to speed, design, and pure adrenaline. With its unmistakable twin headlights and underseat exhaust, it looked like a supermodel ready to throw a punch. In the world of sport bikes, the 916 didn't whisper for attention. It screamed for it. It was a bike that turned heads at every stoplight and stirred souls at every twist of the throttle. For many riders, it wasn't just about going fast, it was about falling in love every time they climbed aboard. Underneath its sculpted fairings, the Ducati 916 packed a 916 cubic centimeter L-twin engine producing around 114 horsepower and 66 pound-feet of torque. It wasn't just powerful, it was sharp, focused, and razor-like in its delivery. Featuring a lightweight trellis frame, single-sided swing arm, and Showa suspension, it carved corners like an artist with a blade. Back in the day, it started around $14,000, a steep price in the 1990s, but not when you're buying two-wheeled art with a wild streak. Owning one felt like dating someone way out of your league who also happened to drag race on weekends. The 916 made you feel things. Sometimes terror, sometimes love, always intensity. Next up, we're shifting gears from elegance to pure brute force with a bike that didn't care about finesse. It only wanted to be the fastest thing on the planet. Number 10. Honda CBR900RR Fireblade. The Honda CBR900RR Fireblade wasn't just fast, it was a revolution on two wheels. When it hit the streets in the early 1990s, it didn't look like your average superbike. It was lean, sharp, and aggressive, built with an obsession for precision. While other bikes bragged about brute strength, the Fireblade quietly redefined what fast could feel like. It was a masterclass in weight reduction and balance, proving that sheer speed isn't always about size, it's about control. Riding it felt like dancing with danger, but in a way that made your heart race with joy, not fear. Underneath its aggressive bodywork, the Fireblade packed an 893 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine that delivered around 124 horsepower. But it wasn't just about power. The real magic was how light it was. At only approximately 185 kilograms dry, the Fireblade combined liter-class punch with middleweight agility. No traction control, no ABS, just pure rider and machine synergy. Back in the day, you could get your hands on one for around $10,000, which for the kind of thrill it delivered was a downright steal. It was like strapping yourself to a guided missile built by a samurai. But if you thought the Fireblade was wild, wait until you see the next beast. We're talking absurd top speed and a name that still sends shivers down rider spines. Number 9. Kawasaki ZXR750 ZX7R. The Kawasaki ZXR750, later known as the ZX7R, wasn't just a superbike. It was a middleweight monster with track DNA and street attitude. In the 90s, it had that unmistakable get-out-of-my-way aura, dressed in bold green and bursting with personality. It looked like something that should have been chained in a racetrack garage, not parked on the curb. For many riders, the ZX7R wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a declaration of rebellion wrapped in lime green and throttle response. At its heart sat a 749 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine that screamed through the rev range with insane precision. It produced about 120 horsepower and offered razor-sharp handling thanks to its twin-spar aluminum frame and fully adjustable suspension. The front fork was beefy, the brakes were fierce, and the air intake ducts gave it real race cred. It wasn't the fastest in a straight line, but in the twisties, pure poetry. Back then, the ZX7R came in around $8,000, which made it a tantalizing option for anyone craving adrenaline without bankrupting their soul. Owning one was like dating a supermodel who also happened to be a martial arts instructor. Gorgeous, dangerous, and not afraid to throw you if you got cocky. And if you thought that was wild, wait until you meet the next machine. It didn't just flirt with top speed, it punched a hole right through it. Number 8. Suzuki TL1000S. The Suzuki TL1000S arrived like a bull in a china shop, loud, wild, and unapologetically aggressive. It looked like a sport bike, but it felt like a street brawler with a short temper. Riders either fell in love or got thrown off, sometimes literally. With a growl that echoed through city streets and mountain roads alike, the TL1000S earned a reputation as one of the most unpredictable motorcycles of its era. This was not a bike you just rode, this was a bike you wrestled. And for those who tamed it, there was nothing more electrifying. Every twist of the throttle felt like a challenge accepted. Under the tank was a 1,000 cubic centimeter V-twin engine that delivered a ferocious punch, paired with a lightweight frame and minimal electronic assistance. That combo made it quick, visceral, and just unstable enough to keep your heart in your throat. It came with a rotary rear damper, Suzuki's quirky solution to rear suspension. But that component would go down in infamy for causing some scary handling issues at high speeds. Back in the late 1990s, you could get all that chaos for just around $9,000. That's less than a used SUV today, for a machine with more drama than a soap opera on two wheels. But if you thought the TL1000S was wild, wait until you meet the next speed demon that broke the rulebook and the sound barrier. Number 7. Yamaha FZR1000. The Yamaha FZR1000 didn't just show up in the 1990s, it crashed through the decade like a lightning bolt wrapped in fairings. With its aggressive looks, angular bodywork, and snarling attitude, this bike was built to dominate everything in its path. It had the kind of presence that made riders stop and stare, and the kind of speed that made your heart skip a beat just thinking about it. It was a wild child from an era when engineers seemed more interested in pushing boundaries than playing it safe. Underneath that fierce styling lived a liquid-cooled inline-4 1002 cubic centimeter engine pumping out around 145 horsepower and roughly 78 pound-feet of torque. It had a 5-valve per-cylinder design, cutting edge for its time, and Yamaha's famed Delta Box aluminum frame gave it a sharpness in corners that left rivals wheezing. With a top speed just shy of 170 miles per hour, it delivered a spine-tingling performance every time the throttle twisted. Priced around $8,000 when new, the FZR1000 was an absurdly good deal for the kind of mayhem it offered. That was pocket rocket pricing for a machine with a heavyweight punch. Think of it as buying a jet engine and strapping it to a lawn chair. Pure chaotic fun. And for all its fury, it still managed to feel like your favorite bad habit. Dangerous, thrilling, and impossible to quit. But if you think this beast was wild, wait until you see what Suzuki had cooking in their lab. The next one might just make your palms sweat. Number 6. Ducati 888. The Ducati 888 was more than a motorcycle. It was a statement. Born from the fire of competition and dripping in Italian flair, this machine brought a serious attitude to the early 1990s sport bike scene. It didn't need neon graphics or wild gimmicks to turn heads, just the unmistakable sound of a Ducati V-twin and a silhouette carved like a scalpel. The 888 didn't ask for attention, it demanded it. For those who craved a pure, visceral connection to the road, it was the dream ride, and the kind that left your pulse racing long after you parked it. Underneath that red-hot fairing was a liquid-cooled 4-stroke 888 cubic centimeter L-twin engine that pushed out around 104 horsepower. It was precise, responsive, and handled like a predator on rails thanks to its tubular steel trellis frame and race-inspired suspension. With Brembo brakes and fuel injection, the 888 felt advanced yet brutally simple. It was a bike built for riders who wanted feedback in every corner and honesty in every throttle twist. Back then it cost around $15,000, a steep price in the early 1990s. But owning one was like dating a supermodel who also had a black belt. Gorgeous, dangerous, and thrilling every second. Ducati didn't just build a fast bike, they built a legend. And speaking of legends, the next rocket we're about to hit might just redefine what speed meant in the 90s. Number 5. Bimota YB6XUP. The Bimota YB6XUP is the kind of machine that doesn't just ride, it performs. Born from the wild ambitions of Italian craftsmanship fused with Japanese power, this motorcycle was pure exotica on two wheels. Just standing still, the YB6 looked like it wanted to tear through the laws of physics. It wasn't just a bike, it was a rebellion against mediocrity, a rolling statement that said, "I'm not here to play safe." For riders who craved something bold, something different, this machine wasn't just desirable, it was borderline mythical. Underneath the Bimota's custom chassis lived Yamaha's ferocious 1002 cubic centimeter engine straight from the FZR1000XUP, tuned for ferocity. That meant insane acceleration, precise power delivery, and a top speed that flirted with 250 kilometers per hour. The hand-built aluminum frame and high-end suspension components gave it sharp handling that felt more like a scalpel than a motorcycle. Back in the 1990s, the YB6XUP could cost upwards of $20,000, which was astronomical for the time. But it wasn't just a bike, it was a rare Italian gem with Japanese firepower. Buying one was like ordering a Ferrari that could do wheelies. It made no practical sense, which is exactly why people wanted it. These bikes were never built for the masses. They were built for the mad. And next, we're shifting gears into something equally rare, but this time with a turbocharger and a reputation for terrifying riders off the seat. Number 4. Suzuki RF900R. The Suzuki RF900R didn't roar onto the scene, it sliced through it like a katana with a grudge. With its sleek, angular fairings and unmistakable road presence, this bike had all the aura of a street samurai. Disciplined, dangerous, and wildly underrated. It was never the poster child of the 90s speed wars, but that's exactly what made it such a sleeper legend. You didn't choose the RF900R to show off, you chose it to prove something. Powering the RF900R was a 937 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine, borrowed and refined from the GSXR lineage. It churned out brisk acceleration and topped out at speeds that flirted with 160 miles per hour, all while offering a surprisingly comfortable ride. With a twin-spar steel frame and a smooth 5-speed gearbox, the RF900R was both responsive and forgiving. Suzuki didn't drown it in tech, but what it had was balanced and purposeful. No fluff, just the fundamentals done right. Back in its heyday, you could ride off with one of these for just under $9,000. A steal considering its performance chops. It was like buying a ninja in a business suit. Modest at first glance, lethal when unleashed. But if you thought that was fast, wait till you meet the next contender. A true pavement scorcher with a reputation for breaking both limits and hearts. Number 3. Kawasaki GPZ900R. The Kawasaki GPZ900R wasn't just fast, it was revolutionary. This bike came roaring into the 1990s, still holding on to the title it earned in the mid-80s as the first true ninja, blending sleek styling with an aggressive attitude. It looked sharp, it sounded mean, and it rode like something built for fighter pilots. It wasn't just a machine, it was a challenge. Tame me if you can. This was the bike that Tom Cruise made iconic in Top Gun, but in the hands of the average rider, it felt less like Hollywood and more like strapping yourself to a missile. Powered by a 908 cubic centimeter, liquid-cooled, inline 4-cylinder engine, the GPZ900R produced around 115 horsepower and could hit speeds that put other bikes of its era to shame. It featured a 6-speed transmission, anti-dive forks, and a compact design that made it surprisingly nimble for a superbike. It wasn't just a pioneer in performance, it was ahead of its time in both handling and tech. Back in the day, you could pick one up for around $4,000, an absolute steal for a machine that packed this much history and heat. And if you thought this was impressive, wait until you see what Suzuki unleashed next. It might just melt your speedometer. Number 2. Yamaha VMax. The Yamaha VMax wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a thunderstorm on 2 wheels. With its menacing silhouette and muscular frame, the VMax commanded attention long before the engine even fired up. This wasn't the kind of bike you idled on for a scenic cruise, this was a wild animal barely tamed by design. From the moment you sat on it, there was a sense that something powerful, almost unstable, was waiting to be unleashed. Under the tank roared a 1,197 cubic centimeter V4 engine, pumping out 145 horsepower and 100 pound-feet of torque. That's not just power, it's controlled chaos. With its revolutionary V-boost system kicking in at 6,000 revolutions per minute, the VMax delivered an adrenaline hit unlike anything else in the 1990s. Back in its prime, the VMax could be yours for around $10,000, which was a bargain for something that felt like it belonged in a Mad Max sequel. Riding it was like saddling up a myth, equal parts terrifying and beautiful. But if you think the VMax was insane, wait until you see the next beast that took fast and redefined it completely. Number 1. MV Augusta F4R 312. The MV Augusta F4R 312 didn't just turn heads, it made jaws drop. This wasn't your average superbike, it was rolling Italian art that just happened to scream like a banshee when unleashed. With design cues from the legendary Massimo Tamburini, the F4R 312 looked like it belonged in a museum but performed like it wanted to tear down every straightaway. It was elegance weaponized, built for those who demanded passion and danger in equal measure. Underneath the sculpted fairings roared a four-cylinder engine producing 183 horsepower, capable of propelling the F4 to 312 kilometers per hour. Every twist of the throttle felt like being punched into another dimension, while its radial brakes and Marzocchi forks gave it composure to match the chaos. It featured 6-speed transmission, Sachs rear suspension, and a growl that echoed like a symphony of war. Priced around $35,000 when new, it cost as much as a compact car, but let's be honest, no Toyota ever made your palms sweat like this. Riding it was like flirting with a goddess who might slap you mid-kiss. Thanks for revving through the 20 fastest 1990s motorcycles with us. Which one was your favorite? Drop a comment below and don't forget to subscribe for more high-octane throwbacks. Ride safe. See you next time.